Hi guys. All right, I wanted to do an update on my language studies mostly because last weekend I had some good news. I finished my first book in Korean, Harry Potter 1. I used Link to do it. I definitely took breaks, so it went in spurts. Um, and when I started it, it was incredibly difficult. Um, basically having to one thing I dislike about LingQ is basically it colors all the words, whether you've looked them up or not, whether you know them. Everything's is colored. As when you start learning it, maybe you probably didn't, not everything you learned with this language was with LingQ. Therefore you're going in to click all these words that you've already know. And then after you learn a word, because the way they do it is a different entry for each grammatical form of the word, you're looking up the same word over and over and over again, or telling LingQ that you know it over and over and over again. And that's so frustrating. But LingQ, I like LingQ because it is almost my only option for reading Korean books in with the help of a dictionary and having it work effectively. So I'm going to look at some other options. I think I showed you how I have the add-on, the Naver add-on, which is so wonderful to read text, but I have to do that in the browser, and it doesn't work with LingQ. I don't know what to do. That's terrible. Anyway, but I finished the book in LingQ, and so I'm happy with LingQ at the moment because I did finish this book. That's a great feeling. Reading your first book in a foreign language is so empowering. I've as an experienced language learner, I've been there, done that a few times, but so it's not quite the feeling. Exultation that it was when I first read it, my first book in German. See and this is what I remember. What I like about doing extensive reading to learn a language is the sense of accomplishment. You get every book you finish. And one thing that people will say is that you don't have to finish every book you start. You can just pick up a book, start reading it, gets a little boring, just switch to something else. That's fine. If something is really boring, probably you should switch. But finishing that book, you get accomplishment. And one of the things that you'll get studying a foreign language is you'll plateau, you'll have self-doubts, maybe it's lonely because you mostly study alone. This feeling of accomplishment that you'll miss that. And so I totally think you should make an effort to finish a book. If you stop enjoying the book too much, I mean, if you completely stop enjoying it, probably stop. But if it's just kind of like you're maybe a little bored, just stop looking at words. Just keep going. Get a good pace. Just keep going. As long as you can say, I read every word in this book, then you read it. And that's the great thing. There's no test. You don't have to pass a test. You just have to know to yourself, without lying, you didn't actually literally skip pages without reading each word, that you did read everything in the book. And more or less, obviously, if you're reading it, then your brain's making an attempt to understand it, although definitely skipping parts that you don't know. So I finished that book. I was really excited, and I was intending to actually stop all SRS, all apps, everything, and switch to all extensive reading. I'm just like, this is it. LingQ works. I can use LingQ. I'm gonna read my way to fluency in Chinese and in Korean. But then I went to my Chinese class and I decided that I didn't want to do that because then although my overall Chinese knowledge will be moving forward, my specific Chinese language knowledge for the class is going to suffer. And so I decided to keep SRS as a part of my studies. But it's what I did with Japanese. Although I definitely tried so much to read, I just couldn't get into it. So what I ended up doing mostly, until later, eventually I finally broke through and started to read. What I did was I basically used SRS and watching anime and then talking to people. That was the way I learned Japanese. So those are the habits I had for the past 8 years or so, and that was kind of what I kind of carried on into Korean and Chinese. I was just watching Netflix, then taking, I guess you could say time boxing, but just taking breaks to do SRS reps or something. Yeah. 1 second. But of course, it makes sense that when you do just use extensive reading to learn vocabulary and grammar, well, grammar you probably would open a textbook from time to time, but you rely on extensive reading to learn the language. You're going to learn it in bits and pieces. The analogy that Matt gave with the low-hanging fruit, you're definitely grabbing the low-hanging fruit every step of the way. You're not reaching, or at least very little of it, trying to reach for something that you can't, or you're not, that's harder to get. You're just constantly grabbing the low-hanging fruit, which seems like the best way to go. But when I do my text for class, although my Chinese knowledge and my Chinese brain is getting better, the specific knowledge for the textbook is going to suffer a bit if I'm not constantly reviewing that textbook. And I want to do really well in the class. I want the teacher to be like, oh, wow, your Chinese is so great. and get that praise and that encouragement. So, so I'm going to keep doing the SRS, definitely for the material for the class. And then I want to cut back on the others. I'm not sure what to do. I might just, for Chinese, I might just do it for the class. I have the spoon-fed dictionary app, or not the spoon-fed Anki app on my phone. It's been helpful. I'm not sure how much I want to continue it. Still, I very well may stop. I did get the Chinese wiki. I found a good deck that goes over that, uses that as a resource to review the grammar. I have the Chinese wiki ebook. I purchased it. I guess you can get it for free, but I purchased it. So I'm reading that. I'm thinking I might stop the spoon-fed, do the Anki grammar deck slowly, 10 cards per day max. That would put me at maybe like 2 years roughly to finish the deck. But considering that I'm not always doing it every day, it'll probably take longer than 2 years, which is okay. I mean, I can read the book faster than that. It's just in terms of using Anki to review it. I might not do the Anki. I don't know. Yeah. Then I have a lot of graded readers in Pleco, and Pleco has a pretty good system. I will have to make another video showing you exactly how that works, but essentially it looks up every word as you go, reads it to you, and it works really well. And you could jump into material that's way over your head because you're getting translations every step of the way. It's actually not that bad. It doesn't hurt. It's not that painful. But I think reading, you probably want to alternate between challenging yourself and then reading something really at your level, because I know with the graded readers, especially with the HSK 1, 2, you're getting that vocabulary that it's repeating so much. The vocabulary repeats consistently, tons of repetition, and that's great. Reading Harry Potter in Korean on LingQ, I'm finding that some vocabulary will repeat a lot, some will definitely repeat, and enough that I know it's repeating, but not enough that I'm remembering it, at least not yet, which is frustrating. But again, when you finish that book, you're just like, yeah, I finished the book. I know my Korean's better. It's definitely better, hands down. It's a scientific fact. Even if you are, as you're reading, you're like, oh man, I forgot this word again. Anyway, I signed up for italki tutor lessons again, and for Korean. That's another reason why I want to probably continue using Anki a little bit, because whenever you're engaged, you're working with a tutor, taking a class, speaking the language, there's target vocabulary that you want to use for that, which is definitely going to be in the extensive reading, but is not addressed specifically, and you will learn probably slower than if you supplement with some spaced repetition, where you can you get to decide which words you focus on. And so for the Korean, I have a vocabulary deck. I'll probably continue with that. But I guess my big thing is that for my immersion, I'm going to make it reading. Reading either, and if I want to use Netflix, which is okay, because you have the subtitles, so you can stop at every step of the way, look up the words, immersion, not use translation, not use like the English sentence translations very much. Just read it like a book. read the movie like a book. So read. That's where that's going to be my immersion. That's going to be anything above and beyond my SRS, which I'm not quite eliminating, but I'm going to be reducing. And before I would just kind of immerse by listening to the language, watching it, maybe turning off all subs. That's not good. That's not good. I don't, at least, no, that's not good. I want to, when I immerse, I want to increase vocabulary, even if it's just a little bit. And you do that by looking up words as you encounter them. And I guess, and with Japanese, because my listening is so good and the amount of new words that I encounter the frequency is not that high. Without subtitles, I can actually just, pause the movie, pause an anime, look up a word in a dictionary. There's usually only a few words per show that I would want to do that. That's okay. But for Korean or Chinese, I'm not at a level with that at all. And going step by step with subtitles, looking up stuff in the dictionary, that is the way to go. So I feel like I'm on the right track. I feel pretty happy. Doing 2 languages at once is a bit challenging. After my Chinese course ends, I may make a decision to just focus on one language. I kind of like doing 2 languages at one time. It challenges my brain to go into polyglot mode, but I don't know if I can take it yet. My brain may not be able to take it. We'll see. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Any comments are appreciated, and I will see you in the next one.